Morning. As Austin said, my name is Steve. I am the president of the Imperial Order of Fire and Brimstone. You say, what does that mean? Um, in order to understand what that means, we have to go back to 1886 when the St. Paul Winter Carnival started. Just a little tidbit, we are the oldest festival in the United States. There is no festival older than the St. Paul Winter Carnival. The Tournament of Roses is 1 year younger than us. So we like to play with them and say, we are the granddaddy of festivals. In 1886, an editor from New York City came to St. Paul in the dead of winter, and he wrote an article and said that this was a Siberia uninhabitable for humans. And the St. Paulites did not like that. And so they decided to have a festival to celebrate winter, to show how we live in winter. And we asked help from the city of Winnipeg and Montreal up in Canada, and they came down and built us an ice castle, and thus started the first Winter Carnival in 1886. In the 1930s, the legend was born. We decided that we needed to have a story that people could gravitate toward and embrace. And so they decided to throw the festival in the midwinter. So Winter Carnival always falls over Groundhog's Day or Midwinter's Night, when we celebrate, all of us, the push between spring and winter. And so the legend actually goes that Boreas comes upon a city of 7 beautiful hills, which is St. Paul, and we no longer have 7 hills, we have 6 hills, because when they built the Freeway 94 and 35E, they took out Williams Hill, and so we are a city of 6 hills, even though we say we're 7. And Boreas came and said that this was the winter wonderland, and the 4 brothers in the Winter Carnival represent the 4 winds, the wind of the north, south, east, and west. And then Boreas' arch enemy is Volcanus Rex, who says, you can have the festival, but at the end of the festival, I declare that spring is coming, and we celebrate that legend. And so throughout the carnival, there's bantering. Boreas represents everything that's proper and good and regal. And so the icy side of the story, when you think of the Queen of England and how she's very proper, that's how they are to behave. And the Vulcans on the other side are to bring in the frivolity and the summer fun and the playfulness and what we do in summer, and represent everything that interrupts that, which is regal. And so we interrupt things. In the past, we have had some people have taken that too far, and it's hurt our reputation, but like any organization, a few people can ruin the good of a large amount of people. We are an organization of over 300, almost 400 individuals that have served as Vulcans over the past 130 years. This year is the 130th anniversary, and we're one of the largest fraternal organizations. I think, well, just to give you history, I was a Vulcan in 2003, and then in 2011 or 12, I was Volcanus Rex, the king of the summer. And for those that are from Minneapolis, this year I'm Minneapolis's Commodore, so throw that in too. But that's basically the legend. Vulcans, it's more than just a 10-day carnival. St. Paul Winter Carnival, both the blue side and the red side go out and we raise funds. We are a 501(c) organization. We've raised millions of dollars for the community for different projects. And in 2018, we're going to be building another ice castle when we have the Super Bowl. It's a good opportunity for you to participate in that and sponsor whatever company you are, because it's going to get world recognition like our castle did in 2004 and in the 1980s and 1990s. So that's it in a nutshell.
Wonderful, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sure we have some questions in the audience. I have one right over here.
Hi. Sounds really cool.
It is. It's the coolest celebration on earth.
I've never heard of it. So I'm
Winter Carnival is the 4th largest winter festival in the world. It's beaten by one in China, one in Ottawa, Canada, and there's another one in the United States, which is a larger winter festival, and we're the 4th largest one.
I'll definitely be attending this year. I have not yet, so I'm excited. My question is, you know, there's something to be said for keeping it traditional and continuing to, you know, carry those traditions on. But what are you guys doing to innovate and to do differently every year to gain new audiences and to continue to push the boundaries of being a
I think that is the biggest challenge we have, is how we incorporate the population of St. Paul that's ever changing into the Winter Carnival. We've tried various things. Some things have worked, some things haven't. It still is, and I say this is unfortunate, a Caucasian celebration for the most part, and we're trying to change that. We crowned our first African American queen last year, and one of the things she said was, this is 2015, and this is the first, I can't be the first African American queen in 130 years. I can't be. And she was. And the first African American Boreas was in 2010. And she said, and he said too, that can't be. I mean, this is 2010. And that's something we're constantly exploring and we don't want to avoid. So if anyone has ideas, we're always open to that.
I have a grown daughter that's in grad school right now that is so wrapped up with the medallion hunt that she's spending more time on the medallion hunt and the clues than what she should be doing. I'm just curious, how many people participate in the medallion hunt every year, and how long does it normally take to find it?
Well, the medallion hunt is sponsored by the St. Paul Pioneer Press, and they usually have upwards to 10,000 people looking for the medallion at any given time. It increases as the more clues come out. Today, the 4th clue came out. And, you know, I thought, okay, I think I know where it might be, so I'm going to go out there and start looking. It's $10,000. But that is something, when I was a child, I went out every year. I was fascinated by that. When I was a child, I thought the legend was real. I honestly did. And my dad would take me to the overthrow, and he would say to me, now, Steve, we got to cheer on Volcanus Rex, because if he doesn't win, winter's forever, and we don't want winter forever. I was just screaming and screaming, and then Boreas would be overthrown, and my dad, he would, can you feel it? And I'd say, feel what? He'd say, can you feel the warmth coming in? And of course, as a kid, you believe it. Yeah, I can. He said, spring is on its way. Winter's over. Spring's on its way. I believed that until I became a Vulcan and found out I wasn't real. We aren't really real kings and Vulcans, but it is a fun celebration. It's a great groundhog celebration, and the medallion hunt, it's thousands of people that participate.
Hey, we're speaking of ideas. There's a couple that they've tried over in some of the Scandinavian countries before that are kind of interesting. One of them being both of them involve interior structures, which would be a lot cheaper than building a castle. Would be smaller structures. One would be a bar that people could, the ice bar, the chairs, everything inside is ice. Another one is actually an ice hotel where people could check in for the night and sleep in an encased in ice dwelling.
Well, we do have ice bars. You'll find them in Rice Park next week, and they will serve when the band plays right from the ice bars, and they have ice cups, and people, and it's really kind of fun. But we haven't tried an ice hotel. The castle itself in 2018 is estimated is going to be about $6 million. That's a lot of money. I think they should build something out of plexiglass for that, and then just keep it up every day of the year and charge a person $1 to get in. We'd pay for it, but they don't seem to like my idea.
All right, so King Boreas is the king of winter, and he's white. He's got this gorgeous white fur coat, white hat. It's beautiful. The Vulcans, who represent summer, are red and black with red horns.
Well,
Now, how does that represent summer?
Well,
Devils
we're
and
red hot. Red, the color blue has always been associated with cool, and red has always been associated with warm. And that's how the colors came. The brothers, the east wind is purple because he's decided whether he wants to go with Boreas or with Volcanus Rex, so he goes back and forth so much between red and blue, he turns purple. The wind of the north is blue because he's true blue to Boreas. The winds of the south is red because he ultimately defects to the Vulcan side. And then the green is ever true, and so it's evergreen. And that's how the brothers get their colors. The queen is white because she's the fairest maiden in the land, and Boreas is white, and Volcanus Rex is black because we mark everyone with the grease paint, the black grease paint. And as we mark that, that tells Boreas, the more people have the V on their cheek, he knows that people are defecting. And ultimately, on the last night of Carnival, everyone has a V, and he realizes, I have no more support, I need to leave. And then spring comes. That's where the black and red and blue and colors come from. So someone has a mic here.
I'm not too familiar with this carnival. When does it start? When does it end?
It begins this Friday night when Boreas will be crowned, which is a secret, who he is. And then the Queen of Snows will also be crowned, and the 4 princesses, and then the 4 winds will be named. And then on Saturday, the Vulcans will be what we call coming out, which they will reveal themselves, saying, oh, Boreas was crowned, we're back to say, you're not going to stay. And then that starts Saturday, and then it's for 10 days, and it ends the first weekend in February. So last weekend of January, first weekend of February. Well, Rice Park is the hub where most of the stuff happens. At the State Fairgrounds, they'll have the Beer Dabbler in the Midway area. Last year, 100,000 people came to that. It was huge. Then the Snow Park is in the fairgrounds where they have the Minnesota Snow Sculpting Competition. The winner of that goes on to the next international challenge, and so it's a big thing. All the ice carvings will be at Rice Park. The snow carvings are at the St. Paul State Fairgrounds. There will be this week, right? They should be carving them on Saturday. Yeah, those are just individuals who want to be sponsoring their name out, and so they get a carver, and then we just say from U.S. Bank, and I don't know if they have one, but I just thought of that, and then they get advertising for it. Someone has a mic here.
So a good friend from high school was just Wind of the South 2015, and I was shocked to hear him describe how much time and energy it went in. And like I saw him on the 4th of July, and it was like his 5th parade that day alone. I just speak to that, or what's the motivation for some of these people to get so involved, and what do they get out of it, or is it just really all about the fun for some of these people?
Well, it's more than that. King Boreas spends approximately $150,000 to be Boreas. That's how much he spends throughout the year. Volcanus Rex spends about $50,000. The Winds spend about $30,000. The Vulcans spend about $15,000 each one. It's all, it's all individually raised. Well, we travel all over the country representing St. Paul, doing what I'm doing, but throughout the United States, attending other celebrations, going on trips. It's out of our pockets, and it's so you see the enormous amount of dedication that it takes, and this is all out of love. And a lot of these people are business owners, and so they have their businesses promoted throughout the year. For instance, last or 2 years ago, Boreas, he had advertising in the newspaper almost every week, and his business doubled that year. He said he more than got back in revenue what he put out in Carnival, just because people knew him and wanted to come to his business to support him. And that's usually what happens. But you have to be ready if it doesn't.
So the question, how do I become a Vulcan?
How do you become a Vulcan? You can go to the stpaulvulcans.org website. That's not ST, it's spelled out completely SAINT. And there are application forms there. If you're interested in sponsoring, you can go to the stpaulwintercarnival.org, and then that will take you to their website. If you want to be sponsoring any of the queen candidates, the princesses, the Gwynn brothers, if you want to sponsor, anyone, you can go there and say, I want to be a sponsor, and that could be any amount. And then your name gets out there throughout the year. Every time they're introduced, King Boreas from the house of whatever business it is, and that's advertised. Yeah.
I'm not a Minnesota native. This is news to me, and I'm a little taken aback. So you refer to this as a fraternal organization. What other activities?
The Vulcans are, because that's part of the legend, and we've been challenged by that. But it is, the red side is primarily male dominated. The blue side is equally populated.
So the question is, what else do you guys do as a fraternal organization aside from, I assume some of the organization, or maybe all of the organization, and then representing at different events? Are there other elements to it?
Well, we raise funds for schools. We've raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for the Wounded Warrior Project, for the name escapes me, Brandview, it's BRView. What is the name of that school? Off of West 7th and Randolph. It's a school for children who have physical challenges. We've raised close to $100,000 for that school, because when we come, what happens is, within the Twin Cities, there's this legend, and they want to see who these legend characters are, so they come, and then they spend the money at the schools. And so I guess you could say that it's a draw. You take off the uniform, you can see it's just me, but you put that thing on, people think you're real. I did when I was a kid. I thought they were real. I was scared of them. I was in awe of them. I wanted to, and I thought I could be one. Hey,
We have time for one more question over here.
Out of curiosity, if you're trying to get a younger crowd, have you considered having a snowball fight?
a couple years ago, they did do that. They had the Winter Carnival snowball fight, but the liability was too high, because there were people who got hurt. Some people weren't doing it playfully. Some people really took it seriously, and then they got hurt, and they wanted Winter Carnival to pay for that. So they said, this isn't worth the liability and the insurance, and sometimes our insurance companies say, no, can't do that. Thank you for asking me to come out.